What up, guys? Old Lou here. Just got back from Vegas, and I thought I'd make a video about our trip. We had a ton of fun. Me and my fiance went out there, met up with a couple of our friends. We all flew out on the same flight together and came back same time. Bunch of fun. Monday through Friday, we went out for the WSOP. We didn't play many events. We played the $600 Deep Stack Omaha tournament, which was a ton of fun and a big learning experience for me. The game that these people play out in these tournaments and these Euro pros and just like kind of the better field of players, it's kind of eye-opening how much better they are than me at Omaha. And I went out there, we fired a couple of bullets, and I have a couple of clips about how it went. It was definitely a learning experience more than a moneymaker, I'll give you that. We jumped into a 10-20 game for PLO. We played some 1-2 PLO, but mainly the trip was a lot of dinners, shows, some gambling, a little bit of pie gow, some blackjack, and we found a couple of advantage plays on the slot machines, but there wasn't much. So we're going to jump right into the action, and we're going to start it off right away with the PLO tournament. We're heading into the WSOP. I'm registering for the $600 Deep Stack PLO. She's entering in the $250 side event. Let's see what happens. All right, so we register in. We walk to our table, which is in the horseshoe side of things, and we pretty much get stacked instantly. It was a very hard table, so we rebuy on our phone, and we get stacked instantly again. So that was the WSOP for me. So right after dusting off $1,200 at the WSOP, we jump into the 5-5 with the rock game. But this game plays a little differently. So the rock is, there's a $10 button that stays in the middle, and it's always in front of the person who wins the last pot. So if you win the last hand, you get $10, and it goes towards your next raise or your next call for the next hand. So we won the first hand of the table. It is a brand new table, and we looked down at King, Jack 9 out of under the gun position. We decided just flat here when we probably should be 3-betting. So, you know, we're playing a little bit bigger of a game. The straddle is always on, so this is pretty much a 10-20 game. Nerves are kind of there a little bit. We just lost a bunch of money at the WSOP. We weren't looking to play for stacks, I guess, pre-flop with just kings. So we flat, and we go 5 ways to the flop, which is pretty strong for our hand. It comes down 8-3 deuce with 2 clubs. So we flop an overpair, backdoor straight, and the second nut flush draw. We decide to check and flow, and we check to the initial raiser, and he takes his time, and he decides to throw out a bet of $150. So what I'm thinking in this spot is it's a pretty dry board. He's going to have a lot of hands that are like aces, nut flush draw, and you know, more hands comprised of that than he's going to have random like queens or jacks. So we decided to stick in the call, hoping to see a king or a club or a 10, something to improve our hand on the turn. And we get exactly that. Turn comes the queen of clubs. We check and flow, kind of disguising our hand to the initial better, as he can also have a lot of ace-high flushes here. So the river comes pretty bad, the 2 of spades. So now we're not only losing to the nut flush, but we're losing to any sets or 2 pairs. Again, it's our first hand of this table. We're not really sure how these players are playing yet. It's a big game. The player decides to bet 300. I don't feel like getting bluffed on the first hand, and I probably should just fold, but I end up sticking in the call, and he shows ace queen 10-9 with ace 10 of clubs. Alright, so this next hand, we are in the rock. We have a pretty shitty double suited hand, but the player in the big blind has pretty much played every single hand, and we want to play some pots with him. So when we look down at King Jack 6 deuce, we just decide to call our option. And our buddy who came out to Vegas with us in the big blind, he's a very strong player, and we're a little afraid that he might raise it, but he doesn't, which is great. And we flop top 2 with the second nut flush draw. So when the big blind checks to us, we decide to just build this pot a little bit, and we don't want to go pot and scare anybody away. We have a very strong hand, but there's a lot of bad turns from us. Pretty much any card from 7 to an ace that doesn't pair the board is pretty much a bad card. We don't get that though. We get the 6 of spades, which is a pretty strong turn for us, turning 3 pair and bringing in no draws. So when he checks to us, we're looking to build this pot against this player, and we bet 100, and sadly he snap folds right away. And we right away show our buddy, like, look at the hand we just flopped. Sadly, we didn't get any action, but we get the rock again, and we're on to the next hand. All right, this next hand, we look down at aces, the beautiful, the almighty, and we're on the button, which is even better. And when we get an under the gun limp, we decide to pot it. So we make it 90 here, and everybody folds but our buddy that we really want to play pots with. So we're really happy to get heads up here, especially with very uncoordinated aces. We're really only happy with seeing hearts or an ace on the flop with this kind of hand. We're not really flopping any draws, and we're not flopping any chances to make any big hands. So we're most likely going to have to just play post flop here, and that seems like exactly what we're going to have to do. Flop comes queen 9-3 with 2 spades, and our buddy checks, and we're going to deny some equity here and kind of just see where we're at in the hand. I think we gain a lot more information by betting over checking. And our player does not seem very interested in this hand at all. And he's hemming and hawing. He's thinking about it. He really looks like he wants to fold. And when he does this, I'm guessing that at best he has a very low flush draw, or jack 10 or 9-3. A lot of hands that we're going to be able to push off on the turn, pretty much no matter what it is. The turn is a jack of spades, which is interesting because we don't have any blockers to a flush, but I'm going to go with my read on the flop and just assume that I can probably get a lot of these hands to fold if I bet. And I'm trying to think what I would bet if I had a hand like aces with the nut flush, or a straight, or a lower flush. And I decide to go for 250, and it gets the job done pretty quick. And he right afterwards says, I folded a small flush to your big flush. And I show him my hand, and I'm always willing to show my hand to these players, especially if they're giving action, we're having fun, drinks are flying. So we show them the hand, we take down the pot, and we're on to the next one with the rock. All right, this next hand, we're in the under the gun position. The rock is in the cutoff, and there's a $20 straddle on the button, and we decide to open for pot, so we make it 75. We get a lot of folds. Everybody doesn't look very interested, and our buddy, who we want to play a lot of pots with, he calls on the button for 75. So we're heading heads up to a flop. The pot is 170, and we're hoping to see a good flop, and that's exactly what we get. We bank top set, so we flop the nuts with a second pair, a backdoor flush draw. So we're first. We're blocking a lot of the hands that this player can call with, so we're not looking to bet huge and blow him off the hand. We bet 75, and he almost beats us in the pot. Turn is not the best, but this player has been very pushy. He'll push back if he has a very good hand. So I bet small. I bet about 2/3. I bet $200, expecting him to push back if he has jack 10 or a better hand than me. And we also want to build this pot and get him to call with worse. And sadly, he folds right away. So I think we played this hand right. Although we're blocking a lot of the hands that he can continue with, I think if he did have jack 10, obviously he would have played it a lot differently, but he probably would have thought about it a little longer if he did flop like a wrap, like 10 jack queen. So I think betting on this turn is still okay to try to get value from other hands. All right, so that was the end of our 10-20-ish game session, and we got done with this game, and me and a couple of buddies and my fiance, we ended up racking up, and we ended up heading out for a little bit. We ended up going to a really nice dinner, a couple of shows, and had a lot of fun. And I'm going to add a couple of clips in here. You can skip through it if you want. I'll let you know when the poker starts again in the video if you're not interested. But yeah, we had a bunch of fun. Vegas is great, and we played a little slots. We played a little Pai Gow. Just a bunch of fun shit. So I got a couple of clips of that, and then we're getting right back into 1-2 PLO with the Aria right after that. We're at the Cosmo. We just got 26 with the jackpot. Let's see what we can do, baby. Hey, how about last spin mega for 11 grand? All right. Hey, that was fucking pretty damn good. Check it out. double up. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you guys play Pai Gow, but there's this side bet that you can play, and it's called the ace high side bet. So that's if the dealer has all 7 cards, has no pair, no straight, no anything, and an ace in their hand. If you bet $5 on it, you get 25. If she has a joker, which there's 1 in the deck, and the joker only counts as a straight or an ace or a flush card, you get 75 for it. But if you get it where you have ace high and the dealer has ace high, you get 40 to 1. So on a $5 bet, you get $200. It's a crazy anomaly to just get it at 1. And we got it where I got it and Eric got it and the dealer got it. And to make it even crazier, that happened 2 hands later, same thing again. So in 2 hands, we made $800 on just a $5 side bet. If you don't play Pai Gow, you probably don't understand, but that is insane. We're only in for 600. We have fucking mountains of money out there. We're doing $50 on multiple hands. All the checks. All right, to remind you now, this is our last night in Vegas. So it is like 7:30 in the morning, and we're just running up Pai Gow. We're throwing drinks around, and we were only in for $600 and ended up cashing out for around $2,600 or $2,700. So we split it down the middle. We made about $1,000 each. It was an amazing way to end the trip in the gambling sense. So before that happened, we were at the Paris. They don't allow you to film at all. So I bought in for $1,000, and within an hour, I literally had like $3,500. I made $2,500 in this cash game in no time at all. It was absolutely crazy. And I just wish they would have let me record some of the hands. It was unreal. So throughout the trip, we went to multiple dinners with our friends. Ton of fun. We went to Barry's Steakhouse. We went to Absinthe for the show. We went to SDK and the Cosmo. Everything was great. This next clip's from the SDK, and this is us on the way to dinner, walking to the Bellagio. My girl's looking great. We checked out the Bellagio. Oh man, it was beautiful. All right, back to the important stuff. We're in the cutoff. We looked at it, Jack 9-9 with Jack 9 of diamonds. We have some information on this player in seat 1 that he's a super tight player. He pots it to 105. And there's a little bit of dead money in there, and we're in position. If we hit a set, we can probably win a pretty big pot. So we decide to call, and it's 105, so we're going heads up to the flop, and the flop comes down total trash, king 5-3. And the player doesn't think too long at all before saying pot, and I think we just have a pretty straightforward decision of probably just mucking our hand. Even though, you know, it's pretty, and we have 2 pair, there's just not a lot of value in continuing here. So we're on to the next one. All right, we're on to our next hand. We're under the gun. We limp with pocket 10s and Jack 5. So not a very good hand, but it's a good hand to like see a flop with for cheap. You don't want to bloat the pot pre-flop and raise. So we're just going to check our option, and the player in the big blind, they throw $10 in front of him because he's got money behind. He just rebought for $400, and we're going to be battling in this hand. So we are heading 5 ways to a flop with 55 in the middle, and the flop is king queen 3 with the king of spades. So it checks around to the seat 1 player, which we know is a pretty tight player. And he decides to bet 50 on the flop, which is $5 less than pot. We're going to assume that this player is going to have a pretty tight range of hands here, consuming mainly ace, ace, jack 10, king, jack 10, kings, queens, 2 pair. So we're not really getting the odds to call unless somebody else calls. So the big blind, who's got money behind, says call, and he's been in almost every single hand. He's been splashing around, and we're looking to play a pot with him for sure. So when he calls the 50, we end up calling, and we're going to go 3 ways to a turn with $205 in the middle. He's got about $200, $300 left behind, and right now he's getting his money, and he's paying back everybody from the last hands that he's lost. So he owed me 5, he owed a couple other players money. But we're off to the turn, and it's the best card in the deck, the 9 of spades. So we turn the nut straight with a flush redraw. And this is a great spot because the player in the big blind decides to pot it into us. for 205. He's got about another 150 left behind, and we're not looking to invite the seat 1 player to come along with a lot of equity with a set or a big wrap. So we decide to deny his equity and raise to 450, which is pretty much a min click. The player in seat 1 surprisingly folds instantly, and it gets back to the big blind, and he quickly calls. So we're heading off to a river with $900 in the middle, and we're hoping for a clean one, or we're hoping for a spade if he has the same hand as us, or we're hoping to just see a brick if he doesn't have the same hand. And the river's the deuce of hearts, and luckily we dodged a lot of outs. Our player had ace jack of spades with pocket queens, so he had a huge hand. He had a set, gut shot, and the nut flush draw. So we dodge all of his equity and dodge every card pretty much out there, and we hit the miracle deuce of hearts in the river to hold, and we scoop up a big one. All right, this next hand, we're off to the flop right away. We checked our option in the straddle with king 10, 6, 8. Flop comes crazy for our hand. Queen jack 9 with 2 diamonds. So we flop the nut straight with a second nut flush redraw. We bet 30. Player in seat 1 calls, and our fiance actually decides to raise us, which is music to our ears, because all I want is to stack her ass, because all she's been doing is beating me this whole trip. So I play it slow and I just call. Hopefully the player in seat 1 will come along too, but he folds. So we're off to the turn, and again, I'm trying to play slow. I'm trying to get her stack. So I check, and she snap jams on the 2 of spades, and I call, and I tell her, you're behind, and the river is sadly the queen of hearts, and she announces, boom, and says nothing else. She drops down her 9-9 ace 3. So she actually had a crazy hand. She had a set of 9s and the nut flush draw for spades. So we were almost flipping on the turn, even though I had such a huge hand. But I'm going to pay her out her $160, and I'm going to hear all night about how she beat me and she sucked out on a pot. So nice hand, honey, but watch your back, because I am coming for those chips. All right, now on to the title of the video. We have Queen, Queen, 10, deuce. We pot it in the cutoff for $45. The small blind and the big blind call, and the 2 limpers fold. So we have a pretty strong hand, but you know, it's a pretty vulnerable one. We're mainly looking to hit a queen, a straight, a combo draw. So not a lot of options with our hand, but we want to build a pot so we can make moves on post flop and push these players out of pots or get paid off in big spots. So when the flop comes down 10, 10, 4, we flop trips with a queen kicker, and the 2 players check to me, and we're either way ahead or way behind here. So I just want to take a stab, kind of like I would with every other overpair. And I bet half the size of the pot, just about, for $75. And the nitty player in seat 1 instantly grabs a stack of black chips and says, pot. And what goes through my head in this spot is fold, because I have 5 outs at the maximum and 2 outs realistically. So without even thinking, the second they fold, I snap muck. Don't pay off nits. All right, on to our last hand. We look down at a pretty shit hand, but we're on the button. Everybody folds to us, and there's a straddle on, so we bump it up to 30 with jacks, and everybody folds besides my fiance. She snap calls, so time to get revenge, but unfortunately the flop comes 9-8-4. She looks at her cards and grabs $70 and says, pot. I politely give her the bird and muck my hand. All right, that's going to do it for this vlog. We had a shitload of fun. I think I've said that too many times, but I can't express it. We had a ton of our friends out there. The dinners were awesome. The show was incredible. If you're in Vegas, please check out Absinthe. One of my best friends told me, or brought me to Absinthe on my bachelor party, and man, it was an unreal experience. You guys have to check it out. Other than that, I think the poker went really well. We lost 1,200 in tournaments, but we made 4,600 in cash. So we made 3,400 there, and in gambling with the slots and Pai Gow and a couple other things, we ended up profiting about $1,000. So I like to gamble at wherever I'm staying. So if you're staying at a Caesars property in Vegas or you're staying at MGM, just make sure that you're gambling at that property with your card, and let your host or whoever you book your room through, let them know that you're gambling there, and you will actually get your rooms for free or your rooms comped or some discounts on it. The higher and the more you gamble, obviously, the better the comps will be. But we ended up getting a week at the Horseshoe where the WSOP is being held for only $200. So 5 days or 5 nights. So really good deal. It was only $40 a night. And we ended up actually getting it completely comped at the end for free, because the $200 is just the resort fees, which every place on the Strip has. So getting those comped is great. So we had a completely free week. We made, after expenses, after all of our shows and dinners, we made $2,000. So it was a really fun week and a profitable week at that. It's very nice to go out to Vegas and come back with money. That's going to be it for this vlog. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys want to see next. We'll talk to you soon.